have you ever stopped to consider that the very qualities we pride ourselves on, intelligence, success, financial savvy, could actually be weaponized against us?
Hmm.
It sounds completely counterintuitive, right? We often assume, the smarter you are, the less likely you'd fall for some sophisticated scam.
Right.
But today, our deep dive into a fascinating stack of sources is going to challenge that assumption, revealing a really quite alarming picture.
It's true. And we're looking beyond just the typical headlines about financial losses. We
Yeah.
want to uncover the deeper, often invisible wounds that these scams inflict.
Uh-huh.
Our sources, which include some really in-depth research papers and a truly compelling interview with the victim, well, they paint a stark picture of just how advanced these operations have become.
Okay.
Modern scammers aren't just after your money. They're leveraging advanced tech and psychology to dismantle your sense of self, your relationships, and even, the fundamental trust in society itself.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to equip you with insights into these evolving tactics because the numbers, they're climbing, and frankly, no one is truly immune.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be zeroing in on the incredible story of Mrs. Lai, a former bank executive with not one, but 2 master's degrees and even an anti-money laundering certification.
Wow.
Yet she lost 32 million NTD. I mean, you'd think someone with that kind of background would be absolutely bulletproof, wouldn't you?
You absolutely would. That background sounds formidable.
This is where the story takes a truly unexpected turn. Our sources reveal that the proportion of scam victims with postgraduate education is actually increasing.
Really? Increasing.
Yeah. We're seeing figures jump from 2.93% of victims in 2023 to 3.29% in 2024.
Okay.
And then a dramatic leap to 7.63% in just the first 7 months of this year alone.
7%. Wow.
And the biggest culprit in all of this, fake investment scams. They've raked in a staggering 72.98 billion NTD. It completely flips our common assumptions on their head.
It absolutely does. I mean, what this tells us is that for high achievers, their intellectual strengths, ironically, can become their greatest vulnerabilities. It's never about being stupid, but about how these deep-seated psychological mechanisms get expertly exploited.
Right.
And it's beyond just the sheer wealth that many high achievers possess. And we're talking about, an estimated 5 trillion NTD pie of retiree funds.
Yeah.
There are specific cognitive biases at play.
Like what, specifically?
Well, one of the most significant is what our sources call overconfidence and authority bias.
Okay.
People with a history of success, especially in their professional fields, often develop an inflated sense of their own judgment. They naturally think, how could someone like me, with my expertise, possibly be fooled?
Makes sense.
This makes them less likely to question initial red flags. They might dismiss their own sort of nagging doubts because acknowledging them would mean questioning their own proven acumen.
Right.
Think about Mrs. Lay, with her extensive background in finance and even anti-money laundering. She genuinely believed she was too smart, too experienced to fall for anything like this.
That's fascinating. So their past successes, which built their confidence, become a kind of Achilles heel.
Exactly.
What happens then once they've made that initial leap of faith, maybe a small investment?
That's when cognitive dissonance and what our sources call self-brainwashing really kick in.
Self-brainwashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once an initial commitment is made, even a small one, admitting a mistake becomes incredibly difficult. Psychologically, there's this need for face-saving, right? So to resolve this internal conflict, victims often unconsciously self-brainwash. They find ways to justify their choices.
How so?
They'll ignore objective evidence, sometimes even warnings from trusted friends or family, because confronting the truth would mean facing that incredibly painful question. If all of this is wrong, what was all that effort for? What does that say about me?
Oof. That sounds like a really deep personal conflict. And I can imagine that only gets worse if they realize something might be wrong but haven't gotten their principal back yet.
Precisely. That leads directly to an intense unwillingness to let go, and what's been termed the Romeo and Juliet effect.
Okay, the Romeo and Juliet effect. How does that apply here?
Well, when victims suspect they might be getting scammed but haven't retrieved their initial investment, they become singularly focused on getting their money back.
Right, desperation sets in.
Exactly. Which often leads them to invest even more in a desperate attempt to recoup their losses. And the Romeo and Juliet effect describes how any external opposition, even from loved ones trying desperately to help, can paradoxically strengthen their resolve to continue.
Wait, so trying to help makes it worse?
It can. They might perceive family and friends as, like, destroying their true love, this perceived, lucrative investment opportunity.
So instead of seeing their family as saviors, they see them as obstacles. Wow, that's a truly heartbreaking dynamic.
It really is.
Are there other factors that make certain individuals, especially these high achievers, more vulnerable?
Absolutely, especially for retirees. Our sources highlight social disconnection and what we call information silos.
Information silos.
Yeah, a simpler, maybe more isolated lifestyle can mean they're less exposed to evolving scam warnings or just, contemporary social news.
Right.
Miss Lee's case illustrates this perfectly. She lived a relatively quiet life with her dogs, wasn't typically plugged into the daily news cycle, which made her an easier target for manipulators who could then control her information environment much more effectively.
It's truly unsettling how these mental strengths and even, like you said, lifestyle choices become liabilities. Okay, but how do these sophisticated criminal enterprises actually weaponize these insights? How do they execute these scams?
Well, it's far more intricate than you might imagine, and it goes way beyond simple trickery. Our sources reveal a multi-pronged approach, leveraging really cutting-edge technology. It raises the question, how do you protect yourself when the attack is so precisely tailored to your unique psychological makeup?
Yeah.
The scammer's playbook is alarmingly effective.
So what's in the playbook?
One of their most powerful tools now is AI crawler technology, used to craft customized scam scripts.
AI crawlers. What they do?
Scammers deploy AI to analyze your online footprints, social media activity, your interests, even stated beliefs, to create highly personalized, almost irresistible narratives.
Wow.
Remember Mrs. Lai? The AI likely identified her as an animal lover who also had an interest in feng shui. So the scammers then tailored a story involving investing in a pet blood bank, appealing to her love for animals, and using 5 elements fortune-telling to analyze stock market trends, tapping into her other belief system.
That's incredibly specific.
It is. Our sources emphasize that AI in this context can be stronger than the human mind in designing these custom scripts that hit just the right notes for a specific target.
So they're not just casting a wide net, they're building a psychological profile on each target, finding their personal weak spots. That's terrifyingly efficient.
Precisely. And they don't stop there. They also create intense crowd pressure using AI fake accounts.
AI fake accounts, how does that work?
Victims are often invited into these investment groups on messaging apps, right?
Okay.
But these groups are filled with hundreds of AI-controlled fake accounts. Sometimes one scammer is operating dozens, maybe hundreds of these fake personas.
No way.
Yeah, and these bots share fake profit screenshots, enthusiastic testimonials. It creates a powerful fear of missing out, FOMO, and intense peer pressure.
Great.
It makes the victim feel like literally everyone else is making money, and they're the only one being left behind. Ms. Lai, for example, she was in a group of 80 investment companions who were, unbeknownst to her, mostly AI bots.
That's incredibly deceptive. It's not just one person trying to fool you. It's an entire fabricated community designed to pressure you.
Yeah.
And I assume they don't go for the big kill right away. They ease you in.
That's right. That's where long line fishing comes in. Classic technique. Modernized.
Okay.
Scammers often provide small initial returns, just enough to build trust and convince the victim the investment is real.
Get them hooked.
Before enticing them to commit much larger sums, like their entire retirement savings. Miss Aaliyah initially invested small amounts in what she thought was an ETF, saw what looked like real returns, before they pressured her for millions. This gradual escalation built a false sense of security, makes the bigger sums seem less risky later on.
It's so calculated.
And another critical tactic is the use of confidentiality clauses to enforce isolation.
Confidentiality clauses in a scam.
Yes. Victims are often forced to agree, either verbally or sometimes even signing something digitally, not to discuss their investments with anyone. It isolates them completely. It cuts off vital external support from family or friends who might spot the red flags. It makes them even more susceptible to the scammer's manipulation because the scammers become their only source of information and sort of validation.
Right.
Ms. Ling described the extreme stress of this isolation, feeling completely unable to talk to anyone about what was really happening.
It's a deliberate strategy to sever their support network. That's nasty. And I've heard stories about how they even coach victims on how to handle bank transactions. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. They go as far as coaching them on evading bank scrutiny.
How?
Scammers instruct victims on exactly how to withdraw large sums of money without raising suspicion from bank tellers, who are often trained to spot potential scams.
Like what kind of instructions?
Tactics include visiting multiple different banks to withdraw smaller amounts, staying under reporting thresholds, or claiming the money is for something innocuous and believable, like home renovations or buying gold. Misty Lee was specifically instructed to tell the bank she needed the cash to buy gold for her payments.
Wow. Coaching them to lie to people trying to protect them.
Precisely. And to really cement their credibility, especially in certain types of scams, they sometimes use deepfake technology and impersonate experts.
Deep fakes, like fake videos.
Exactly. Scammers might impersonate well-known financial figures, maybe using slightly altered audio or even video, leveraging their perceived authority. And in some cases, especially prevalent in romance scams but creeping into investment scams too, they use advanced deepfake tech to create hyper-realistic video calls.
Oh, wow.
It makes it incredibly difficult for victims to detect the fraud because the visual evidence seems so compelling. You think you're talking to a real person, maybe even someone famous, but you're not.
That's truly chilling. It feels like an attack on so many fronts, psychological, technological, social.
It is.
The financial toll is obviously devastating. We see the huge numbers. But our sources reveal something perhaps even more insidious, what they call a triple deep damage that extends far, far beyond the bank account.
Yeah, that term really captures it.
It sounds like a systemic attack on the individual, their relationships, and maybe the very fabric of society.
That's exactly right. And what's fascinating in a dark way is how these individual traumas ripple outwards. They undermine the very fabric of our communities and our shared sense of security.
Okay, so let's break down this triple deep damage. What's the first layer?
First, there's an almost complete psychological collapse.
Collapse. That sounds extreme.
It often is. Victims frequently deny they've been scammed, even when confronted directly by police with evidence. Ms. Lee, for example, initially insisted, "I'm investing, I haven't been scammed."
Denial.
Deep denial. Then, when the reality finally hits, it can lead to severe despair, hopelessness, even suicidal thoughts. Ms. Linney mentioned wanting to drive off a cliff to fake her death or jump off a building.
Oh my God.
They question their own intelligence. How could I, of all people, be scammed? It's a devastating blow to their confidence and self-worth.
Yeah.
Made even worse by the isolation and stress from those confidentiality clauses we mentioned. And then on top of all that, there's immense shame and a fear of stigmatization. Society, unfortunately, still has this tendency to blame victims, right?
Yeah.
You hear phrases like, oh, 10 out of 9 scammed are just greedy.
Right, that awful saying.
That causes immense shame and a deep fear of being labeled, which tragically prevents many victims from speaking out.
And that silence must hinder their recovery.
Absolutely. And crucially, it limits society's ability to understand the newest scam tactics because the victims aren't sharing their stories.
So it's not just the external pressure, it's this internal battle with self-worth and identity compounded by shame. It sounds incredibly isolating.
Extremely isolating, which leads us directly to the second layer of damage, the erosion of interpersonal trust.
How does that manifest?
Well, imagine the realization that those investment groups, the ones filled with supportive companions, were actually full of AI personas or just one scammer playing multiple roles.
Yeah.
That is a profound betrayal. Miss Lai, upon discovering the group was fake, said she felt she was the only one playing with the scam group.
Wow.
Our sources say this completely shatters the fundamental trust between people. It leads victims to deeply question human nature itself. Can anyone be trusted?
I can see how that would happen.
And this distrust often extends to their closest relationships. Remember the Romeo and Juliet effect?
Right.
That, combined with the enforced secrecy from confidentiality clauses, creates immense family strain. It can potentially damage or even completely break family relationships as victims resist advice and help from their loved ones.
That's truly devastating to lose not just money, but trust in people, in your own judgment, and even your family connections. It's hitting every pillar of your life.
Every single one.
So what's the third layer, the wider societal consequence of all this?
The third layer is the significant, indirect societal impact.
Okay.
Think about it. When even highly educated, successful individuals are falling victim in increasing numbers, what does that do to overall societal trust?
It erodes it, surely.
Exactly. Trust in strangers, trust in online information, trust in investment opportunities, it all declines. This increases what economists call the trust cost for everyone.
Trust cost.
Yeah, it makes everyday social and economic interactions less efficient, more cautious, maybe less willing. We become more suspicious as a society.
I see.
Furthermore, as we mentioned, the stigmatization of victims makes them afraid to speak out,
Right. Silence.
which means society loses invaluable, real-time information about evolving scam tactics. This creates a dangerous, vicious cycle. Prevention efforts lag behind because we don't know enough about the latest tricks allowing these scams to proliferate unchecked.
That paints a truly grim picture of a world where trust is eroded from the individual all the way up to societal structures. This is where it really hits home for me, because our sources directly challenge that common narrative that blames victims. That 10 out of 9 scammed our greedy line. Our sources argue this is not only unfair, but actively unhelpful, even harmful.
You're absolutely right to highlight that. This labeling of victims with terms like greedy or stupid causes what experts call secondary trauma.
Secondary trauma.
Yeah, piling hurt on top of the original hurt. And critically, it prevents people from seeking help or reporting the crime. It creates a major barrier to actually understanding the true nature of modern scams, which, as we've seen, prey on much more than greed. And frankly, it's often just not accurate.
So what's the alternative?
Our sources strongly advocate for a crucial mindset shift. The message needs to be, being scammed is not shameful. The scammers are the ones who should be condemned.
Right. Shift the blame where it belongs.
Exactly. Victims should never carry the burden of guilt or self-blame. Instead, they should be actively encouraged and supported to share their experiences, if they feel able, to help prevent others from falling prey.
That's a vital reframing, isn't it? It moves from blaming the victim to focusing on the perpetrator and prevention.
Precisely.
So, putting all this together, what does this mean for us? For you listening, in an era where these scams are so rampant, so sophisticated, constantly evolving, our sources basically conclude that scam prevention is now a universal mandatory course.
That's a great way to put it.
No one is truly immune, regardless of education or background, and we all have a role to play in protecting ourselves and, importantly, each other.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's clear that scams are a profound threat. Not just to our wallets, which is bad enough,
Right.
but to our minds, our relationships, and the very trust that honestly holds society together. They exploit the deepest parts of human psychology using incredibly sophisticated, cutting-edge technology. It makes vigilance and, maybe just as importantly, communal support a shared responsibility now.
This deep dive has certainly shown us that recognizing the tactics, the exploitation of overconfidence, the emotional manipulation, the AI-driven personalization is absolutely crucial for self-defense. But perhaps even more important, listening to these stories, is the need for empathy, for real support for those who fall victim rather than judgment.
Absolutely. Empathy over blame.
Remember, the best defense starts with awareness, yes, but also a willingness to question even when your instincts, your ego maybe, tell you you're too smart to be fooled.
That humility is key.
And maybe, just maybe, to always try to approach others with understanding. Because the person you're talking to, maybe even someone you know well, might be silently battling the profound, devastating fallout of a scam right now.